From the WNIN Tri-State Public Media Center in downtown Evansville, I'm David James, and this is 2 Main Street. Well, he's a familiar face on local TV, keeping us informed about impending storms, making sense of all the colors and graphs popping up on radar, and when the skies are clear, making us smile with his on-air banter, including a recurring feature, Funky Fruit.
Yes.
When viewers send Ron items from the garden or the grocery that take on a new persona. My guest is WEHT meteorologist Ron Rhodes, and this is my 3-degree guarantee, folks. You're going to love this show. So, Ron Rhodes, welcome to 2 Main Street.
It's great to be here, David. It really is. I love it. But you got to say it right now. You got to say, funky. You got to roll that R.
Well, I left that for you.
Okay.
The rolling the R is very good. You'd be a good Spanish student.
Is that way? Okay.
Trilling the R.
I got it trilled.
Trilling the R. Now, I've had WFIE's chief meteorologist, Jeff Lyons, on the show. And like Jeff, you seize any opportunity to have a good time with viewers, bringing humor, trivia, even science to the world of weather.
Science!
Yeah, that's right. Sneak that in occasionally.
Every so often, you got to do that.
Okay, before we get into the arena of isobars and updrafts, let's learn more about the popular feature of the aforementioned Funky Fruit. So how did that get started, Ron?
Well, it started just as basically, as you well know, David, you were in news for so long, you still are. It's one of those deals where, you know, in the middle of summer, you're constantly saying partly cloudy with a 20 to 30% chance of afternoon thunder showers. Right. It gets old. It's the same thing, high temperature, right around 90. So I just thought one summer, and I remember one of your old colleagues, Marcia Yockey, told me, she goes, Rhodes, you got to make them have some fun so they pay attention for your forecast and they stay awake. So I thought, you know, I can make it have a little fun. I thought, you know, let's do, since gardening is probably the biggest hobby we've got, although it's become less of a hobby and almost a necessity with the prices of food going up so much. But I thought, you know, why don't we do something on gardening? And I thought, let's have a biggest tomato contest. So I asked all the viewers, said, send me your biggest tomato. You can, you know, send it in a box. That became a bad idea really fast because Funky Fruit will get a whole lot funkier if it's in the mail for about 2 or 3 days. And I'd pull that tomato out, just be dripping. Boy, that was funky. But that was for a biggest tomato, and I put it on a scale and weigh it. And, you know, I'd even trust the pictures. I say, just go ahead and send a picture. If it's got a scale in it, we'll let it slide, that your thumb's not behind it, weighing it down even more. But, you know, then one guy sent me one in a box. He said, Ron, this may not be the funkiest tomato. Well, it may not be the biggest tomato, but I guarantee you it's the funniest looking. And sure enough, I pull it out. It's a tomato that's got like a nose and ears. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. So I thought, this is pretty fun. Well, once I showed that off, then somebody said, well, you think that was funny? Wait till you see this. And so all these tomatoes kept coming in, you know, in all kinds of odd shapes and sizes. And I thought, this is kind of neat. This segment needs a name. I was getting inundated with all that. So I called it Funky Fruit because we all know tomatoes are fruit, not a vegetable. My brothers would let me know that. So I thought, okay, we'll call it Funky Fruit. Then all of a sudden people said, well, I've got this funky carrot and I've got this funky, you know, squash and all this other kind of stuff. And so it evolved into just basically anything you would grow in a garden that looks funny. Send it to me. I love to show it off.
Well, you can't stop it now. It's got a life of its own.
It kind of has. But I think a lot of people like it. I think it's maybe one of those segments, you either love it or you hate it. But I love it, and I know a lot of gardeners love it because, first of all, I just want to give a shout-out to gardeners as much as anything.
And it's a year-round thing.
It really is. Well, I mean, I always call it potato season in the wintertime because it's whatever somebody pulls out of a sack of potatoes.
That's
because usually, if a tomato it looks that odd, it's not usually out there on the produce counter, you know? Yeah, so it's like something you pull out of a bag and something. I get so many heart potatoes. If I had a nickel for every love tater that I've gotten, I would be a rich man. But that's okay. I love it.
Now, of course, you receive photos.
Right.
Like you said, you used to receive the items that were brought to the studio.
And
that was kind of, like you said, funkier than you wanted, really.
Right. And that it started just a little bit before a lot of people had cell phones that could take pictures, you know. And so it's been around for a while. And now I just say, no, just do a picture, please. Don't send a tomato in a box. We don't want that anymore.
I'm just curious, any items that may have been too suggestive or too bizarre that didn't make it on the air?
More than a few, David. My name at the station for this segment has an alternate name too. So we'll just kind of leave it to your imagination. But it starts with a and the fruit. So
there's some censorship involved.
I have to. You know, sometimes it's funny. I will put it on and I'll say, that's a double tomato or something. And they said, somebody will tell me after the show, said, Ron, that kind of looks like a butt.
Yes.
I said, well, but it's still a double tomato. It's like 2 tomatoes in one. And I thought, well, I guess if you're thinking along those lines. But yeah, some of these just don't pass the censor. Sometimes I don't catch it, but I really need to. It's gotten to the point now, if it's so odd, I'm thinking, is this okay to show on the air? Because I'm going to call it this. Because I like to make it seem like it's something. I don't just want to say, there's a funky carrot, there's a funky tomato. No, I wanted to make it look like something. I've had strawberries that look like rhinos running. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, it looks like a rhinoceros that's running. I'm thinking, that's pretty amazing. I've had strawberries that look like elephants. I mean, it's like, but it really does. I think the best ones are the carrots. Some of these carrots, I mean, they'll grow legs and stuff like that. One carrot looked exactly like an astronaut. I don't know how it was growing that way, but it had like the space helmet, and all that kind of stuff on. It was kind of bulky. I thought, this is pretty impressive. Now, I'm wondering if there's not a little photoshopping. I do, if it looks, just too perfect or too good, I'm thinking, nah. The ones I like the most are probably like the gourds or look like swans. I mean, it seems like I've got a lot of those every gourd season. That's later on in this growing season. But yeah, I just love it. It's just a lot of fun just to see all these different garden things that people are pulling out, these odd things out of their garden.
And it also is a kind of a reflection of the gardening community out there.
Right.
And, man, they're harvesting a lot of stuff.
They really are.
It's amazing.
I mean, there's some serious gardeners out there.
I know
found that out, quickly, but they don't mind showing off some of their oddities, these oddities from the garden.
Okay, now you have backyard weather. You actually have a little backyard.
Yeah, I do. And I haven't always done this, but I've done this probably for the better part of 20 years. I just remember one of our news directors back in the day said, Ron, you're a weatherman. You need to be out in the weather. I said,
Sure,
yeah.
that makes sense.
That's right. So I would go outside, and I really loved it. When snow is coming down, it is absolutely so fun to be out there when the snow is coming down in the backyard, throwing snowballs, or we're making snowmen or whatever it is. It's just like the kid comes out in you when you're outside in the snow. And it's like, I like it any kind of weather, except for the rain. I said, look, my mom told me I have sense enough to come in out of the rain. So I'm coming in out of the rain. I could hold an umbrella, but I think more than anything, when I'm outside, they don't want the camera getting wet. So that's the reason why they don't bring out the camera for the backyard weather when it's raining. Other than that, I'm out there pretty much every day.
Now, you grew up in Owensboro, one of 6 children?
Right. I was one of 6, 5 boys and 1 girl. So we toughened our sister up pretty good. Now, Kara, the one thing we had back then, David, I thought that was interesting. We had a 2-story house, so it was a good-sized house. We had enough rooms, but I had to share a room with my brother. I mean, always with my brother. But we had 1 bathroom in that entire house. You have 8 people in that house, 1 bathroom. And get this, the light switch is on the outside. Are you kidding me? Who designed that bathroom to have the light switch on the outside? Because you're not getting any time in the bathroom. If there's only 1, you got 8 people. And so if you're in there more than 2 minutes, you're getting a flickering of the light. They're just up and down on the light switch. And you're sitting there. It's like you're at some kind of rave or something like that. I'm sitting, all right, I'm going to be out in a second. I'll be out in a second.
So there was no magazine reading in the bathroom?
No time for that.
Okay, you had to
None at all.
get your business done and move on.
You had to move.
Terribly. Now, were you a weather geek as a kid?
I was. I grew up in the 70s. That's when I was a kid. And, I used to watch Marcia Yaki. That was a big thing. I mean, when my mom would say, you could stay up late enough to watch Marcia, and that would be at 10:15. So we always enjoyed that because sometimes she'd dress up as like a spider. I thought, this is great. She made weather fun. She really did. My grandfather said, you cut through the BS, and she's really good. She knows what she's talking about. But she was a pilot, and so she knew about weather, even though she wasn't a full-fledged meteorologist. But I mean, she was fun to watch. And plus the 70s. In the 70s, we had some really interesting weather, especially winters. I mean, we had 3 of the coldest winters back to back to back in 76, 77, 77, 78, and 78, 79. And of course, we had the blizzard right in the middle of that in January of 1978. And anybody who's lived through that is going to be impacted by the weather. I never want to see anything like that. People bring up 2004, in December of 2004, when we had about 20 inches of snow, depending upon where you were in the tri-state. But it's like, it wasn't the same. That snow was gone in a week or week and a half. By the new year, and it was right before Christmas in 2004, but by the new year, it was pretty much gone, except for the big old parking lot mounds would stay there and get grayer and grayer, for months. But back in January of 78, we had a big old snow, And then we kept getting snows after that. And it's like we did not see the grass in our yard until April. And David, people just don't understand. It's like we were like living in the Arctic Circle, at least it felt like it does. And that was when I first remember meteorologists or weathermen at the time, I guess, say, something about the wind chill. We'd never really talked about wind chill up into that. Now, people say, what's the wind chill formula? It is a long string. you do. It's not easy to figure out. But at the same time, it's like it's important because it's taking your body heat away from you, and it does impact you.
Well, that was a dangerous storm.
It was.
I know the pictures of all the stranded vehicles along Interstate 64.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nobody was going anywhere.
No, not at all.
It was rough. It really was.
There were drifts that were so high from that wind. It was basically like a hurricane on land in the middle of winter is what it was. Just an incredible low-pressure system. Of course, I know this looking back at the weather data that we had back then, but because I just lived it. I wasn't a meteorologist at that time. But, man, it was just an incredible storm, and it impacted so many people. I just remember talking about drifts that were up to the tops of light poles in some areas. Just people just don't understand how bad that was.
And back then, I mean, we had a warning system, and we knew something was coming maybe in the next day or two. And of course, now we know maybe 5 or 7 days ahead that something's coming.
Yeah, because technology's gotten so much better, David. And these supercomputers that crank out all this data, you couldn't do it on your own. You've got to have these supercomputers helping out. And we've got so many different models and all this different guidance that we can use. And yeah, it works a lot better than it used to. It just in my career, and I've been doing this since 1990, it's like, I've noticed a big change. That 3-degree guarantee is a lot easier to get now than it was 15 years ago. Let me tell you that, David.
So where did you go to school to learn about meteorology, Ron?
Well, I got my broadcasting degree at Western Kentucky University. This is back in the 80s. Found out pretty quickly after that I needed to get a meteorology degree. So when I was up at Purdue, or at least West Lafayette, I had a job in television up there. It's my first real job. I like to say I had a job at the cable outfit in Owensboro. It was my first job, I guess, out of college. But I thought I need to get my meteorology degree. Purdue has an excellent meteorology program. But before I started at Purdue, and I'd already signed up to start classes at Purdue, I got a job down in Paducah, Kentucky. Well, Paducah, Kentucky does have the National Weather Service office there, which was very convenient. And so what I ended up doing, and this is back in the 90s, I did it correspondence. I mean, they would send me lecture tapes. I would sit there and watch lecture tapes every day. I would, buy my books like you do. And then when it was time for a test, I would go down to the National Weather Service office there in Paducah. They would put me in a room, nobody else there. They take the test out of the packet from Mississippi State. It was Mississippi State. And I'd take the test for an hour. And then they'd come back in, put the test in the envelope. They took care of it. And that was the way I got my meteorology degree. Now, at the very end, we did have to have oral finals. I mean, we had to go down there and give a 15-minute presentation on some weather that's unique to your area, or at least relatively unique to your area. And since I'd just gone through an ice storm in Lafayette, and I knew that we also had that here, I thought we'll just talk about the difference between, how you get ice instead of snow or instead of rain. And just the fact that there's a warm layer of air in the atmosphere that has to melt that snow, and then it refreezes on the way down, and that's how you get sleet pellets. And just basically explain that for 15 minutes. And then I got my degree, so it worked out pretty well.
Your first TV gig, was that, you said, in Owensboro?
Owensboro was a little cable outfit. It was Cable 2 at the time. I think it later became Cable 8. But a lot of people in Evansville got their start there in Owensboro. And so it was really neat to have, but it was also radio, too. So I got to do a lot of radio. I would do the television news and weather, and I did the radio news and weather. And I really got a good experience in both areas, and I just loved it. I mean, it was a fun job. Of course, I was fresh out of college and stuff, and it was just fun, and we're all young and just having a good time. But then I thought, all right, I've got to get another job. I can't just keep living on $4.50 an hour. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't making much money, so that's when I moved on to West Lafayette, then Paducah, and then I came back home. I will say this though: when I got the job from the news director at Channel 7, and it's like I was down in Paducah, and I'd been there for a couple of years. And the phone rings. It's Halloween. I'm dressed as Fred Flintstone. And so I pick up the phone on Halloween afternoon. I go, yabba dabba doo. And he goes, this is David Smith, the news director over at Channel 7 at Evansville. Hey, yeah. Good thing he had a good sense of humor, Dave did.
Oh.
And he did eventually hire me, even though I pick up the phone on my call for a job as Fred Flintstone.
Any other TV folks in your family?
Well, here's the thing. I remember, not really. I mean, my brother actually worked with me, or worked right after me, at Cable 2 as a photographer, but he lasted about a year. And then he got a job down in Bowling Green. He thought, no, I don't need this. I mean, he's lugging around. Back then, back in the 90s, I mean, when we were getting started and stuff, and my brother Raleigh, I mean, he got that gig. It's like, man, we had 3/4-inch decks.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a VHS, only it's bigger, the tape is, but it's better quality. But you had these big decks, bigger than VCRs. I mean, they were about twice the size and probably twice as heavy. You carry that. You had to have a battery belt, that you'd carry around. Then these big, tripods that were pretty heavy. And you had the big cameras. So being a photographer, I mean, you were getting weighed down. It'd wear you down, too. And a lot of, when you're having to walk a long way to get the story or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I mean, I did that. I did it all. And that's one thing about, starting from like Owensboro and moving on is because you're going to do it all. I mean, I edited. I remember one job I had up in Lafayette. I started the morning news program up there, and I did everything. I mean, I came in, I had to do police beats, and I remember our news director said, look, it's not enough just to call the police on the phone and say, hey, what's been going on? You've got to go there in person, or they won't give you all the information. So I drive out to the state police post. I would drive to the sheriff's office. I would drive to the city police. In fact, there were two city police because it was Lafayette and West Lafayette that I hit both of those. And that's before I even started to putting the news together. Then I come back. I would write it. I was producing the show, and then also had to put the weather together too. And it's like it was just. And then I edited. And back then I was editing on tape. And a lot of those tape machines aren't like digital. I mean, now everybody's got Windows Movie Maker and digital editing. That's what we have now too. Not Movie Maker, but I mean digital editing. It's so much easier than editing on tape. And David, you've edited on tape before. You're putting in points and out points. Sometimes that tape slips a little bit.
Oh, yes.
And it's off. You have to keep re-editing to get it where you want it to that exact frame. 30 frames a second, but you want it on that exact frame in that second. So, yeah, it was a difficult job, but you know what? I think it helped me to grow up, and become more professional.
Of course, you grew up in Owensboro. We talked about that. Right. And we didn't find out where you went to high school. Did you go to Davis County or Owensboro High, or did you go?
Well, I started at Owensboro High School, but I had gone to a Catholic grade school, K through, well, not K. I didn't even have to go to kindergarten for whatever reason. I didn't. I think it was optional back then. But 1 through 8, I went to Immaculate Grade School, which is now where the Owensboro Catholic Middle School is. Same place, same building. And then I went to Owensboro High School for 2 years, made a lot of friends there. I enjoyed it, but I missed my friends at Catholic. But my mom said we can't afford Catholic. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what happened. On the first day of school, one of my brothers, who was younger than me, went to OHS, and I guess he got into a fight or something like that. And the next thing I know, Mom's hauling us off to Owensboro Catholic. So,
okay.
I finished up there, and I graduated from Owensboro Catholic.
Okay. And I understand from one of my sources, Gretchen Ross, the morning anchor,
cohort,
that you rode your bicycle across the Blue Bridge?
More than once, David. More than once. I mean, the thing was, back then, again, this is like, I think, early 80s and stuff. And I was just a kid. Well, I mean, I was probably 12, 13 years old. But it was known that the better fireworks were in Indiana, not in Kentucky. Kentucky only had like smoke bombs and firecrackers. Well, the better stuff is across the river. So, of course, we didn't have a car at that time, but we did have our bikes. I had my Schwinn Heavy Duty because I was a paper boy. And a buddy of mine, he said, Ron, let's go across to Indiana. I said, over the Blue Bridge?
That's a 2-lane bridge.
And it's a narrow 2 lanes.
Yes.
It's not even a wide 2 lanes. And it's like, there we are. I can only imagine what the drivers were saying as we were trying to cross that bridge.
Oh, my.
And then what was even worse than the bridge, well, if you can imagine, was when you got out after the bridge, that is a raised road, but it drops off really fast. There's like no shoulder, what used to be 231, but it's the road just north of the bridge heading toward Rio and the drive-in from Owensboro. And it's like, man, those semis come flying by. It about knocked you into, down that hill, into that floodwater or whatever was down there, the swamp.
Yeah, and that's the bottom land.
Yeah, it really is. It is. So
it's near Patronville in that area.
Then when I told then we arrived, and of course the kicker to the whole story is, David, we get across there and the fireworks shop is closed.
So you risked your life
for nothing,
and you had to go back across the bridge.
But then we called the next time, and then we went across a second time, and that was it. So
did you walk your bikes across, or did you ride them?
We would ride them when we could. We'd look behind us to see if there was anybody behind us. Yeah.
Oh, did your parents know about this
nope.
trip?
No, they sure didn't.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. A good idea. And also, Gretchen's. You must have shared a lot of stuff with
I
Gretchen.
talk a lot. That's my
I mean,
thing.
I guess during the commercial breaks, a lot of banter goes on.
Oh, there's plenty of banter.
Yes,
right.
in the morning show. And on the menu at your home, you didn't eat Spam.
No, I don't.
But something called treat, T-R-E-E-T,
Right.
which is different than Spam.
Well, yes, it's different. It is actually the poor man's Spam is what it is. If you can't afford Spam, you got to go with treat. And I'll never forget. I mean, you pop open that jar, you got all that jelly. Yum,
Well,
yum, yum.
I did some research on treat and Spam.
Okay.
Now, treat was started by Armour.
That's right, the Armor Star Company.
Armour Star in 1939.
Okay.
That's chicken and pork.
Ah, gotcha.
Now, Spam is ham and pork.
Okay, so we actually had some chicken in the treat.
So I guess, I don't know, maybe the ham and pork combination is more expensive. I don't know.
I guess so. I guess the chicken one.
But treat, obviously, fed the family.
Yeah, feather fan. You know what else? I know a lot of people still eat this. I don't, but because to me it's liver paste. But Braunschweiger. I mean, that was the thing I had. We had treat. We cut up treat, and sometimes we'd fry it. And then we'd have Braunschweiger. We'd eat that for sandwiches and stuff like that. We cut them into those little discs, And I think a lot of people still eat Braunschweiger. I don't.
Liver sausage.
Yeah, that's what it is. It comes in those tubes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I spent my time eating some not exactly high-quality meat growing up.
But that's tri-state food. It really is. It's a very tri-state
I'm sure it's
staple.
good for you. I mean, I mean, eating liver is good. Plenty of iron in that,
That's right. And also, as we're going with the Gretchen Ross stuff, she said you love to sing Oklahoma to the studio crew.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I used to embarrass my son. My son's 25 now, but when he would be in the back seat of the car with his friends, I'd always sing this. The reason why I know Oklahoma so well, David, is because when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of albums. My mom and dad, for whatever reason, and my dad was a musical person, we just didn't have a lot of albums. But one of the 6 or 7 albums before my uncle, I guess, felt pity on us and gave us some old Beatle albums. We were growing up in the 70s. But it's like we had the cast album to Oklahoma. Why? I don't know. So I'd always belt it out.
The Broadway cast?
Yes,
Oklahoma,
exactly.
yes.
Oklahoma,
oh, yes.
O-K-H-O-M, no, L-A-H-O-M-A.
Gordon McRae and the whole gang?
That's right. It was like the big belting like that.
Oh, yeah.
But what do we do to my son? When he's in the back seat, I'd always hold that last note the longest I could. I'd go, Oklahoma, O-K-L-A-H-O-M-A, Oklahoma. And do it like that. And the other kids liked it. My son would be so embarrassed, like that. But yeah.
He was in the car.
Oh, absolutely.
With his buddies.
Of course.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad.
He was. Yeah, he was not a happy son that day.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff in Oklahoma about the corn is high as an elephant's eye.
That's right. I mean,
it's something that a meteorologist would approve.
Oh, I would like that.
Yeah.
I really got into basically forecasting for farmers when I was up in West Lafayette. I was up there back in the 90s, it was before the reorganization with the National Weather Service. Of course, we had a Weather Service office here in Evansville, and that was shut down. And they had a Weather Service office up in West Lafayette, but that was a specific Midwest ag. I mean, it was focused on ag for the entire Midwest, so that was their thing. But they ended up losing their office too. But in the reorganization, I learned a lot about farming, and like you say, the corn is. I said, is that really true? Because I knew that from Oklahoma. They said, well, that'd be a really good stand up this far north, maybe down where you are. You get as high as the elephant's eye by the 4th of July, but we're not getting it quite that high up here in Lafayette.
And Ron, of course, it has to be an advantage broadcasting the weather really in your backyard.
I know. I've been here most of my life. I mean, with the exception of college down in Bowling Green, and of course, my time spent in Paducah and West Lafayette. But I mean, yeah, I love the tri-state. And you know what I found out about the tri-state? In Western Kentucky in particular, when I moved up to West Lafayette, and I said, where can I find some good chopped mutton up here? Because, I grew up with that old hickory chopped mutton, right? And it's like, they said, mutton? Is that lamb meat? What? You can't get that here. There was nothing. That is kind of unique to this area. And I didn't think that. And when you're growing up in a certain area, you don't think it's any different here than it is out, in Idaho or wherever it might be. And yet you find out when you go to these places, it is a little different. But I think the people were warmer here. And that's one thing I think it seemed like to me, the farther I moved north, the colder the people got. I mean, it's not like they were mean. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they're not quite as friendly. There's that warmth here that I really enjoy.
Well, that's a cold area up there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Northern Indiana. And it's kind of like the plains.
Yeah, no, it's
there
flat.
by Lafayette.
I mean, there's
It's
nothing
flat.
to stop the wind.
Well, we have wind farms up there now.
Well, they need those because
Definitely.
you might as well harness that wind.
Sure, definitely. Of course, you also have the advantage. You know the history, terrain, and how to pronounce Roberts.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That helps.
Yeah, always helps. And DuBois County, not Dubois.
Yeah, and of course, it's Davis County, Kentucky, and Davies County,
And I
Indiana.
believe they were named after the same man. How is that possible?
I don't understand. I guess that's just something that was passed on by generations.
I think so.
You don't mess with it,
That
though.
river
definitely.
changed things, didn't it?
Of course, you do live remotes, and you've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, I have. Pretty much.
Fall festivals, county fairs, fundraisers. Of course, the fall festival is always a big event for
Yes.
any weather person doing the remotes at the fall festival.
Right.
And if you're at West Franklin Street, anything can happen and probably does happen there.
Yeah, I know. And,
Unscripted.
well, it is. Well, I always like to do eating contests, and I think that's always
Yes.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
And like what I'll do is they sell puppy chow there, one of the booths, maybe more than one, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll get some puppy chow and I'll say, okay, guys, we're going to have a puppy chow eating contest. I know the Heimlich, so I can help them out if they need it.
Right.
They said, so Ron, one of these days, I said, look, I just tell them don't to overdo it. And I'll say, okay, now here's the thing, though. I'll put it right down on the ground. I said, if it's puppy chow, you have to eat it like a puppy. So you got to get down on all fours and eat it like a puppy. So they're down on all fours eating the puppy chow out of the bowl. No
And you have
hands.
adults doing this?
Oh, absolutely. That makes it more fun. The kids wouldn't mind that a bit. Or when I have like these donut ball challenges, I'll get powdered donuts, and I get them about 15 feet away from each other, and you try to toss them in the person's mouth. And it's more fun when you put a little extra like syrup or some kind of chocolate stuff on there. Make it stickier. And I felt so sorry for this one kid. He had glasses on, and he kept missing the powdered sugar, kept basically covering up his glasses. He couldn't even see. But it was funny. But the thing is, this is what happened one time. I mean, it's not all fun. I remember one time I thought, you know what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to give someone some money, these kids some money. They go out and get me like 4 or 5 different things they can from the booth, and then I will eat it like a Dagwood Bumstead sandwich, right?
Okay.
And I did that one time. One Monday as I started the fall festival, and it's like they run out, they get this stuff. One of them was, of course, a brain sandwich. So that was the first and only time I've eaten a brain sandwich as part of this Dagwood Bumstead thing. And I'd start eating that on the air. Well, the next day I thought, that really went well. I'll do it again. So I saw this group of kids. They were a little older, probably 12, 13 years old. And they were walking. I said, guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you this $20. You go out there and buy 4 different things at $5 a pop and come back and bring me, and we're going to make it into a sandwich. I never saw those kids or that $20 again, David. That's when I put that contest to a halt. I said, we're not doing that anymore.
Oh, they saw an opportunity.
Yeah, they took it. They're probably riding the rides.
Oh, definitely.
But they weren't buying things for me. I know that.
So what's your favorite fall festival food?
Oh, without a doubt, it's the pulled pork parfait. And that is the first booth I hit every single time. It's the Outdoor Boaters Club. And it's like, that is just a good, I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's like a Dairy Queen parfait, only instead of like, whipped cream, you've got mashed potatoes. And then you got like baked beans. It's like in layers in a parfait cup. And then you got the pulled pork in there. And they usually top it off with, instead of a cherry tomato.
That sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's the best thing out there. But there's so many good things to eat out there. But that's definitely one of those I always hit.
Well, and every year they always try to throw something different in there, too.
Right. Oh, I know. That's what makes it fun. That's like I ask them, what's new? I remember one time, this little girl, her mom came up to me and she goes, yes, you know what? She got straight A's this year, and I told her she can have anything she wants here at the Fall Festival. I said, oh, my goodness, that's awesome. You go get it. Well, they went out to get that, and I'm doing the weather. I come back. They come back my way. I said, well, what did you get, little girl? She goes, salad on a stick. I said, are you kidding me? Of all things, you could have like a donut burger, you got all these different things. You got salad on a stick? It was like a skewer. It had like a cherry tomato, a celery. I mean, I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But
now, if you had that challenge, you'd come back with something really bizarre, I'm sure, as a kid.
I would have gotten the biggest, thing I could possibly find.
Definitely.
Probably like a big old tenderloin or maybe a big old elephant ear.
That's right. I was going to say elephant ear. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you go to a lot of schools.
Yes.
I mean, that's part of your job, really.
It is.
Being out in the public. And so what are some frequently asked questions? when you go to these schools?
Well, I mean, almost the first thing they ask is how much money you make. They
go right to that.
That's right. I'm thinking, you don't really want to know about the science behind it or anything. No, we want the money.
You make any money doing this?
Right before COVID, this was about 3 or 4 years ago, David. I remember going to this one school. I just remember they said, you want to come talk to our school? I'd never heard of the school, but there's been so much consolidation,
Sure.
that type of thing. And I said, yeah, I'll come speak at your school. It's in Owensboro or whatever. And so I confirm the day of, and I say, okay, I'm heading to a place. What is this place? And she told me the name, and then I get there. I find out it is a preschool. I don't know if you've ever done this. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to talk weather to preschoolers? So I get in there, and then the teacher goes, Ron, don't worry. We've got a weather book. You just sit here and read the weather book. And they were like 4 years old. I thought, well, I can deal with that. So I start reading the weather story of the day. I think it was partly cloudy with a chance of meatballs or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's pretty cool. I said, well, guys, the story's over. I'm going to head on out now. And then the teacher goes, no, Ron, we want you to speak to another classroom. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. I'll read another book. She goes, well, no, these are going to be 3-year-olds in this classroom. David, I spoke to 4 classrooms that day, and each group got progressively younger.
So you're herding cats at the end.
I was talking to 1.5-year-olds in high chairs with a puppet. That's what seriously, I'm not kidding you, with a puppet on my last talk. So I thought, I've had some good discussions in weather with a lot of high school students and middle school students, but I have never talked to 1.5-year-olds about sun with a puppet. And
there you go.
I still don't think they gleaned anything from that.
So now you do some screening before you go to school.
Yes, definitely. I do. Good teachers, though. I enjoyed them.
Now, when you're on the air covering severe weather, that does happen occasionally around here.
It does.
Unfortunately, we have severe weather.
Right.
I mean, we like to have a lot of fun, but every once in a while we have to get serious, and because really property and lives are at stake.
Right.
Now, covering severe weather can go on for hours. And when you have these tornado warnings, sometimes you're on the air for hours.
Right. It is. We go wall to wall anytime there's a tornado warning in the viewing area. And I know a lot of viewers aren't too fond of that because if they're watching a good show,
sure,
and say
our sports event.
Right, our sports event. And I get that. And it's like maybe the warning is for Pike County. I mean, it's for Petersburg, and the people down in Madisonville are thinking, sorry about it for them, but we want to watch this game, right? Well, we've got it's kind of unique, the setup we've got now. I do like this. If there is a big sporting event or something is really important that people want to see, and it's not impacting the whole tri-state, it's just maybe one county or 2 counties, what we can do is say we're going to have continuing coverage on Channel 7 or CW7, and you can watch the game still on ABC 25, and we'll update you if we have any additional warnings. So we're still going wall to wall, but we're doing it in a different venue. And what we've got now, we'll do Facebook Lives during the entire event, and we're really fortunate where I am. We've got 5 meteorologists there. I mean, between the 5 of us, if it's all hands on deck, we've got 2 people working Facebook Live and social media, and we've got 2 people working on the air, ABC 25 and CW7. So I mean, it really is. I mean, we're well equipped to handle that. So yeah, I think we cover severe weather as well as anyone, and I really am proud of our team coverage. And of course, the last time we had to go wall to wall with all hands on deck was December 10th of last year. And I've never seen a long track tornado in my career like what I saw that night. I mean, that monster started, down in Tennessee, and it just kept tracking across Kentucky. And I did drop, I think it pulled up briefly. So it wasn't the longest track tornado in history, but it was pretty close. And we all know the devastation that went on in the tri-state, Dawson Springs, Bremen, and those areas, even lasting into Ohio County. I mean, it's just a beast.
When it first happened, all the attention seemed to be on Mayfield.
Right, and when Mayfield was leveled, I mean, it's unbelievable. And
of course, but then we started realizing the damage in Dawson Springs and Bremen.
Yes.
And it was just as devastating there and incredible.
Absolutely.
And they're still rebuilding from that terrible storm.
Right.
Now, cooperation with the National Weather Service. How important is that cooperation?
That's critical because, I mean, they need us, we need them, is what it boils down to. Because, I mean, they can't just shout out their offices, All right, we've got a tornado warning, right? I mean, they can push it out on social media, but it just, to be able to have, the television stations with meteorologists basically pushing these warnings and watches out. The warning's obviously more important than the watch. Yeah, we have to work hand in hand. Sometimes we don't always agree with the National Weather Service, but we think maybe that watch shouldn't be issued, or maybe that warning should be lifted right now. This storm's not strong anymore. But sometimes most of the time we agree, and it's like it's one of those things. But they make the call. We don't make the calls on warnings. I think people need to know that. That's not our call. That's not a TV station's call. We may not agree with it. Most of the times we do, but that's the National Weather Service, and that's what that's their job. And the watches and the warnings come out of their office, and we relay that information, and then we give our expertise too. And we've got a world of experience in our weather center. When we've got all hands on deck.
Of course, the Weather Service has all the sophisticated gear,
Yes, yes.
They also have weather spotters.
Oh, we've got a great network of
And
weather
they all
spotters.
work together to come up with these forecasts and warnings.
Absolutely. And these spotters are vital too. And it's like, because, you get this, you're always looking, where the storm is coming from and what happened there. And this is what we can expect to happen, down the road if it stays strong. Now, the average length of time a tornado stays on the ground is only 7 minutes. I mean, that one on December 10th was just an absolute aberration. But at the same time, it's like if they do stay on the ground for a while, knowing what, that community experience helps us to warn these other communities. And that's one thing I never even had when I first started, David, was a storm tracker where you could track these storms.
Incredible.
Love it. And it's like it's a vital tool as far as I'm concerned.
And you can say in 7 minutes it's going to be there.
Right, exactly. And it pretty much times out. And one thing I've also noticed with these storm trackers is I didn't know that town existed.
Oh, yeah. Well, some of these crossroads they come up with.
Yes, it's like I'm
what
sitting
is
there.
that?
Yeah, where's that?
Is there a house there?
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know if there's a stop sign, but it's like it's one of those things. It's like I'm learning every time I use Storm Tracker. It seems like
it must be something dating back into the 1800s or something like that.
I guess.
Maybe there was a village there at one time.
There might have been.
Definitely.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a vital tool, and I'm glad we have it.
So when you go out and about, you're a local personality.
Right.
People recognize you. They probably whisper a little bit. They point, and then maybe they come up to you and say, "Hey, Ron, how's it going?
Well,
how's
sure.
the weather, Ron?"
Always, and I don't mind that. I always tell them, you don't mind that we come up. I said no, because that means I've got a job.
Sure.
I need a job. It's like if you're not watching, I don't have a job, so I kind of need you. I need the viewers. And I'm just glad. What I've noticed, and that you probably noticed this too, David, it's like I'll have people just say, "Hey, Ron, how you doing?" Like it's like they're an old friend. And I'm thinking, do I know you? And they go, no, but you're in my living room every day.
I know it.
It's like you're a friend. I mean, you don't allow anyone in your living room, right?
No.
And it's like, so if these people who are in your living room or on TV in your living room, it's like they're almost like they're friends of yours. So that's kind of pretty cool.
It is cool. It is cool.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, people are really nice.
Absolutely.
I mean, just rarely will you get somebody that doesn't like something you put on the air or something, or has an issue they want to talk about. And,
sure.
And I have no idea what they're talking about, but they want to tell you about it.
Oh, sure. They'll let me know.
They want to pin you down and tell you their whole backstory, and you keep backing away, but oh well, you just go through it.
Absolutely.
Now, I know when I was in the TV news, every once in a while we have consultants come in.
Right.
And they want to tweak things that we put on the air. Have you had any tweaking done to your weathercasts?
I got seriously, one person said, we're going to get the upper hand. We're going to 7-day forecast. I was the first one to do a 7-day forecast, and others were doing 5. And it's like, because we were Channel 7, we were Fox 7 at the time, and so they wanted the 7-day.
Yeah.
It's almost like the reason why the 3-degree guarantee came into play is because I saw a station down in Nashville that was a 5-degree guarantee, and they said, we've got to have some kind of forum in order to push out these umbrellas. We had this totes umbrellas. We thought, we've got to have something like a guarantee on your weather. I said, well, they do a 5-degree guarantee down in Nashville. I've seen them do that when I was in college at Bowling Green. And they said, well, no, let's do 3. It rhymes with degree and guarantee. He said, 3-degree guarantee. That was actually Brick Briscoe's idea back when he worked in promotions for us back in the 1990s. Of course, Brick works here now and has his wonderful show.
The Song Show.
The Song Show. I love it. And, so, yeah, and it's like 3-degree guarantee. So I've got Brick to thank for that. But it's like, but before that, it really... I mean, I really enjoy that because it's a challenge, really, in order to get it within 3 degrees. And like I said, it's gotten a lot easier than it used to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it will be a 2-degree guarantee eventually.
But what the consultant said, they said we did the 7, but then they wanted to go one step further. They go, let's do a 14-day. I said, 14? Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness.
I said, you could do like an outlook that's above normal kind of, but you're not going to. They wanted specific highs and lows 2 weeks in advance.
No,
forget about it. That didn't last too long, David. And of course, I remember one time, of course, it's not just about, the weather. It's also about like the look or whatever. And they said, you've got to wear the right colors when you're on TV. And I remember they so we did, one consultant had color me a season. And I didn't realize this. It's like you could be a spring person, you could be a winter person, you could be a summer person or a fall person. They for whatever reason, they dubbed me a fall person. And I had this basically a slate of colors. Those are the colors you can wear. You can't wear anything else. And the news director backed that. I thought, oh my goodness. I said, could you change me at least to a winter? I like some of the colors there, or a summer. I think the summer is good too. I don't want to be fall. Nothing wrong with fall. I love fall. It's my favorite season, but those colors I didn't really care for as much as the other ones.
Isn't that what they go through some algorithm, I think, for all the stations. And I never quite understand that because each market is unique.
Yeah, it is.
You try to tell them that.
Yeah, they don't realize.
They don't realize that. I mean, this is our little part of the world here, and people like things a certain way.
That's true. And people come in from the outside, they don't realize that.
No, they don't.
So really some of probably my best promotion directors and people were actually from, Evansville, or at least the tri-state.
They know what we like, definitely.
Yes, exactly.
And Ron, doing my massive, intensive research on you,
really?
I found a video of you rapping on stage at Owensboro's Friday After 5.
Yes.
What was that all about?
Well, it was last year, and we were going to get on stage, the morning crew, Jake, Gretchen, Joe, and me, and we were going to introduce, they were called All the Cool Kids, right? And it was like one member from like NSYNC. It was not Justin Timberlake, but it was another guy. And it was one member from Backstreet Boys. It was AJ McLean. I always liked his work. And then it was one guy from 98 Degrees. It was Jeff Timmons. So it's like the three of those guys were all the cool kids. Well, as they started the concert, we introduced them. We went over to the side of the stage. We just wanted to hang out there. They said they didn't mind. Well, they had technical issues. I didn't realize how much of that was basically, recorded. It's like you had a keyboard player, but it wasn't like a live band. I mean, they had this guy who was kind of working it. Well, he was having some issues, some audio issues. And so to stall for time, Jeff Timmons of 98 Degrees called me out on stage and said, Ron, can you do something for us? Do a dance. He saw me dance, and I've got one dance. It's a kind of a modified jig, but I do it anyway. But anyway, I know a little rapping, and I told the drummer, I said, man, if you could just give me a beat, I'm going to go with it. And he said, what? And then I said, well, I'll just go ahead and go with it. Well, as I started it, I looked back and it was AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys had gotten on the drum because I noticed the drum came in. I thought, oh, good, the drummer's coming in with me. And it was AJ, which was pretty cool. Anyway, so I know, and the reason why I know it, once again, it's me spending time in the car with my son. It's like now that's music. They have these, I think there must be 120 of these compact discs. At least they were CDs, when he was a kid, about 15 years ago. And it's like they have all these hit songs on. It's called Now This Is Music. Well, one of the songs that he wanted to listen to over and over again was Getting Jiggy With It with Will Smith. So I know that rap by heart because he had to listen to that CD over and over again.
Oh, okay.
So I got out there. I said, well, I'll just go ahead and I know it's after what Will Smith did at the Oscars, I may not sing it again. But at the same time, I sang it this time, and I got out there, and I just thought I'll just do a little dance. And on your mark, ready, set, let's go. Dance floor pro, I know you know I go psycho when my new joint hit. I just can't sit. I got to get jiggy with it. That's it, honey, come. I could go on. I will spare you that, David. But I know that from start to finish, and I don't need words or anything like that. So it's like. And once he started beating on it, it's like, this is great. 850 IS if you need a lift. Who's the kid in the drop? So it's like, yeah, and it was a lot of fun.
The crowd was getting into it.
The crowd loved it. It's like, I was surprised. I thought, man, because I thought, why am I doing it? I mean, seriously, I'm out here. They're coming here to see these dudes. But when you dance a little bit, now one thing I found out where I like the karaoke. I've always done that. And but at the same time, it's like, you got to put on a little show. It's one thing to have a great voice, and there are so many good voices out there. I don't have a great voice. If something's in my wheelhouse, I'm pretty good. But it's like, at the same time, if you kind of dance when you're doing it, you can get out of breath pretty fast doing that, I might add. But it's like, but if you can dance doing that, it's like...
It's a distraction.
Well, yeah, it takes the people's, ears away from the music, and they're more focused on the other. What is this? Because it is a funny-looking dance that I do.
Yeah.
You probably saw it on the video. It's a little different than your average dance. But, yeah, and so that was fun, and they got a kick out of it.
Now, do you do this dance at the studio sometimes?
Oh, yeah, sometimes I do. I mean, it's the only one I've got. It's like, that's one of the things is I work with such a good crew in the mornings. And for years I worked evenings, and then they put me on mornings after the merger, and I thought, okay, we'll do this. And I found out I'm much better in mornings. I've always been kind of a morning person, strangely enough. Now, granted, people who knew me back in the day when I was working evenings and we'd go out and karaoke thinking, I don't think so. But I do. And what I liked about the morning shift is that by that time my son was, in band, and he had a lot of, activities I wanted to attend. And I had my evenings open. I walk out the door at 12:30, as long as there's no severe weather, and usually there's not. At 12:30, I'm done with the day. And it's like on Friday afternoon, 12:30, I've got a 2.5-day weekend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think this is a great deal. I really like that morning shift. I think my personality kind of lends itself more to mornings anyway.
Also, you received some national exposure on The Daily Show. Just a little clip.
Well,
I've seen it. Your Irish accent?
Yeah.
Is...
Frosted Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious. Well, I was doing it. It's I was talking to a guy on camera, and we were on the air, and I just go, all of a sudden I started talking like I said, it was St. Patty's Day, and I love talking Irish on St. Patty's Day. I said, in order to get myself into the Irish accent, I got to talk like the leprechaun on Frosted Lucky Charms are magically delicious. And then I started doing my Irish. I was like, mind you, they say mind you a lot. You got to go. You got the sun there. Mind you, and then you're gonna lose the sun. But what the clip they use, of course, I say Frosted Lucky Charms are magically delicious. I'd actually been on the Daily Show before. I never got the Jon Stewart version, but before Jon Stewart hosted it, it was Craig Kilburn, and they were looking for different clips from weather people, and I was on the national news. But nobody knew it was me because I was dressed as a cowardly lion. I'd gone into a costume shop, and I was dressed as a cowardly lion, and I did, need a little courage to give this forecast. And so I did it like the cowardly lion. But then next time I was on, people knew it was me. And I was on just recently the John Oliver show. So, just little clips, That was for 420. And I do this day of the day, and I said, wow, there's a lot of munchies on this day. Surprise, surprise. And then that clip made it on.
Does somebody just troll?
No, that was Jimmy Kimmel.
Does somebody just troll all the stations?
It's not like I posted it on the website.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're finding these clips.
I don't either. I really don't.
Yeah.
Unless they have somebody designated to do that every day.
Maybe. I don't know.
Scan through all the weathercasts
I've
around the country.
4 or 5 appearances, and I don't know. I didn't send them any clips. I know that.
Okay, of course, TV and radio stations do a wonderful job helping communities during times of stress, helping storm victims with food drives, toy collections at Christmas. WEHT has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years for Easter seals, of course.
Right.
That has to be a great feeling to be part of that effort.
It is a great feeling. I really love that, and also the Santa Claus Club telethon that we do just before Christmas. I just love this to the point where, to me, it just shows the generosity of the tri-state.
Oh, it does.
As bad as some of these tragedies we've seen, David, over the years, it really warms my heart to know how generous the people are here in the tri-state. And, and when, obviously clothing a child is very important in wintertime. Some of these kids, I know I didn't have much, when I was growing up, but I had enough to clothe myself from head to toe, and some of these kids don't. And I think that's really good that people do just donate. And the great thing about these telethons is, not only are you donating, you're actually getting something for it. It might be a signed football from, Lou Holtz of Notre Dame, It's like, that's got some value. And then plus, on top of that, you're helping a child. That's what I love. I love doing those auctions because you get an instant, response from these viewers and stuff like that. And the phones are ringing and stuff. I love it.
Well, and you get to see the people in the tri-state. They come on, you get to see all these people.
Right.
It's really neat. It's kind of people watching.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is. It's fun.
And it's like in telethons, you've done your share, obviously, over the years, David, but they're kind of dying out. It's for whatever reason.
I know.
They're not really a thing so much anymore. But we still do our two telethons, and I love it because I love live television.
Yeah. One forecasting question for you.
Okay.
Forecasting snowfall, is that as tough as it seems?
It's the toughest thing we do, David.
I would think so.
Because it's seriously, because they want it down to the inch. In fact, I think they want it down to the fraction of an inch. It's like I could say to people, usually like a 10 to 1 ratio with rain to snow, and it's like, or snow to rain, I guess. And it's like if I say there's going to be like an inch of rain, nobody says anything. But if I said 10 inches of snow, which is the equivalent, if it's cold enough, well, that's a big deal. But it's like, I remember one funny story. One time, it's like, because sometimes these snows just don't materialize like you think they will, and it turns out to be rain and not snow because it's just not quite cold enough. And I called for, a foot of snow. I come to work the next day, and no, actually, I called for flurries. I come to work the next day, a foot of snow later, my nickname all day was Flurries. Hey, did you have trouble getting to work here in those flurries you had there? A lady from Huntingburg, Indiana, sent me a really cool postcard later that week. I got it and said, Ron, you were right. And I thought, wow, I haven't heard that all week. she goes, you said there would be light snow, and you were right. It snowed while it was light, kept snowing until it was dark. Then you said that snow would taper. Yeah, it tapered all right up to the top of my porch. And it's like, I just thought that was so funny. But you're right. I mean, but it's so difficult. If I mention snow early in the week, say we're going to have snow on Thursday, I mean, my brother, who's a teacher, he knows better. I tell him this. He'll text me, Ron, how much snow we're going to have on Thursday? I said, Bart, it's too early to say. I mean, I've been burned. I mean, after what happened, that was about 20 years ago when I called for flurries and we had a foot of snow. But it's like, you can't call that early. I mean, you're going to burn yourself doing things like that.
Yeah, a dusting becomes a blizzard sometimes.
Yeah, it can. I mean, if things can change between then. And it's like usually about 24 to 36 hours out, we've got a pretty good handle on it. We've done a better job over the past few years, but we just can't jump out there early on. But I think it's good that we're letting you know there's going to be snow on Thursday, on Monday, right? Yeah. Just don't ask me for inches.
But, fractions. You can be in Lagodi, and you can be in Madisonville.
Right.
And the snow could be a lot different.
Absolutely, it could.
Definitely.
It could be a lot different from the west side to the east side of Evansville. I mean, you've got the track right there.
That's true.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Will we ever see Ron Rhodes with a beard?
No, that will not happen again. But it happened once. A former radio personality here in the tri-state, Sam Yates, I'm sure you remember Sam. Sam was a character and a half, loved him. But at the same time, he goes, Ron, I was working with him. I was the weather guy for his station at the time. And he goes, we've been in this drought for 2 months. Why don't you grow a beard until we get rain? And I thought, yeah, I'll do it. It was on a Friday. And so I thought, okay, I'll do it. It's Friday morning. Well, I didn't think anything of it after that. I did start to grow the beard. And by Monday, I get called into the news director's office. He goes, Ron, what is this? You're going to be growing a beard, and you didn't check with me on this, And he said, it's too late now because I was hearing promos I didn't know Sam was going to blow it up that big. Oh. Apparently, there were promos running on radio all weekend long. Ron Rhodes is going to grow a beard until we get an inch of rain. I mean, it was a solid month and a half, David, and I was still growing that beard. And I will never go. First of all, it's so itchy. I mean, I don't know how people with beards can stand it. Although I will say this, though. If you drop some food, you might have a late night snack later when you're combing through your beard. Hey, there's that piece of pasta that fell out of my mouth. I've got myself a snack. No, but it's like, to me, I didn't care for it. And, of course, we finally got some rain. I remember it was the week of the Fall Festival, of course, right? Has to be the Fall Festival.
Of course.
And we had a big old downpour. And I got to shave my beard. And, of course, Sam made a big production of it. We went to a barber shop, and we recorded it all on video. So it was a lot of fun. But, I mean, growing the beard, no, that's not happening again. And plus, I noticed one thing, and I'm sure it'd be worse now. I've got like 3 or 4 different colors in my beard. My dad had brown hair, and his beard would be red, Mm-hmm. Well, mine was like the beard at the time. Of course, this had been 15 years ago. It was like red and brown and white, and I had it flecked all. It was the ugliest beard you have ever seen. There will not be another beard grown by Ron Rhodes.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Okay. Meteorologist Ron Rhodes, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for being my guest on 2 Main Street. Now, I think we met that 3-degree guarantee. It's a great show.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
I'm David James, and this is 2 Main Street, presented by Jeffrey Berger, Kim Wren, and the Berger Wealth Services team at Bayard Private Wealth Management.